Hello Raja, let's wait for 2 more minutes. If no one or someone is joined, then we will start. If no one joins, okay? Okay, so Naman and Shakti are done. So let us start now. Okay, we watched yesterday's session. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Now let us continue with the app. Okay, let me share my screen first. My screen is visible now. Right? Exactly. JS done. If you recall, yesterday we were doing this JavaScript and Vue.js things together. Okay. So after this, I will just what I'm doing now is we will create a new simple to-do app in the using the front end only. Okay. The to-do app is just will have add button. You just write a text and it will add the text in the list format in the web app. Okay. So we will just create a small to-do app. Why are we creating this? So that we get to know the use of Vue and JavaScript both together and we can compare both of them together. And the other thing is we have also seen yesterday this increment decrement thing using Vue and using the JavaScript, right? So today next thing after this to do app, we will learn the fetch API calls, how to do the fetch API calls, and then
Hello.
looking for some V directive. Yes, hello, yes. Oh, is there?
I'm not sure. I'm not. I'm only.
Yes, Naman. Naman, I will say something.
Let me be little loud. Actually, I'm not able. Only the one or other guys are also facing. Hello.
Hello, yes. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, but Naman is not.
Naman, I think the issue is with your thing. Hello, am I audible, Naman, to you? Okay, let us continue further. Okay. So what we do today, first we create a to-do app using JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and then Vue. And after that, we will look for the fetch API calls. We are not going. Okay, Naman, I will be a little loud. Okay. So we will do the to-do app, then Vue. We will see fetch API calls, and then I will explain you some Vue directives. Vue directives are like V if, V else, and this V show and all these things. And I will show you those things because those will be required in making a web, in making your project. Okay. And after that, we will just in before the end of the session, we will try to create the project setup in the front end folder, and then make the router files and all these things. Okay. So let me just open it in live server. It is working as usual. I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let us make a small to-do app. What does this to-do app do? It will have a button, to-do list app. It will have a button which on clicking that button, it will append the list of items. Let's say whatever task we write, it will append those things. Okay. So this thing will help you how to take input in case of Vue and in case of normal JavaScript. Okay. So let me comment this. So now let's have another HR. Now let us again create a new div app, view app. Let us first create the app with JS.
Hello?
Hello, yes.
Yeah, no audible, right? I think there
Yes,
was
you're
some
not.
network issue in my end. Can you please repeat what you have to tell? No?
I am saying that firstly we will do a small to-do app. After that we will do the fetch API calls, and then after that we will look at some view directives, v if, v else, and v show, and all some of the v model, v bind. All these things we will see using some basic web app, and after that we will move on to our project meeting. Clear?
Okay, okay,
Why I
okay,
am
okay, okay.
focusing on basics first? Because you have not done these basics earlier also, and
Yes, yes.
you know already know Python. In case of Mad One project, you already know Python, so you know what will happen if we write this code. But in case of JavaScript,
Oh,
you don't know what will happen. So that's why we are making some small web apps that will help you understand how does these things work. Okay,
okay, okay.
so let us create a small to-do app using JavaScript, and for this, let us in the script, let us add con. Let us create the script as it just let us go to HTML. To-do app will have what will this to-do app have? It will have input. It will take input. Okay, input type will be text box, and then in the input it will have placeholder which will show that add a text, add a task. Okay, let's say we give this ID as um, task name. Okay. Now this will be the input thing. You see, input box is coming here. Okay. So now let us have one button which will add the task in the list. Okay. So for the beautify thing, let me just add bootstrap also. Okay, now it is looking better. Now it is much better, right? Okay, so what we want is whenever we want that whenever we click this add button, it should add the whatever text we've written here, it should add that text below this in a format of a list. Clear? So for this list thing, we want something already defined here, which is let's say we define an unordered list here in which we will add some text. So let's say define unordered list. Okay. So in this, let's say we give this as ID of task ID, or let's say task list. Okay. So now what we want is we want to add some text inside this, which will come. Let's say I write here run running. Then when I click on add, then the running should come below this inside a uh, unordered list. That means not, bullet list. Okay, so this is what I want. Now I create this thing. Now let us go to the app.js and let's define the constant for these things also. Just open this. Open the we define here as use command fonts document to get element by ID task input or what was the thing here was task name. So let us copy this. Okay. And after this, what we will want to add the task button also because on in the button we want to get those things done, right? So we have not given ID here. Let us give the ID also. This is the ID pro. This is what we have. Now again we define the task list also. Okay, document because of this list thing. Okay, in this we will have the task list defined. Now you may be thinking that there we are not defining any list item. So how will we write the list items here, right? So those list items we will add using the JavaScript functionality of append child and all the document object models thing. Let me show you how to do that. Okay. So let's have this add task button dot add event listener on click. What we want on click, nothing we are passing inside this function. And then what we want is just erase this. What do we want here? We want that there should be some task which we are creating, right? And this task will get the value from this task will get the value from this task input, right? So let's say now why I'm writing the value here? Why I'm writing the value here? Because the thing is, if I let me just show you this thing also. Now you just go and then check the console. Sanitization error 27. This is not complete. That's why it's showing this error. Let us first comment this. Now you see it is saying null because nothing is passed here, right? If I write something, nothing is working here, but it is currently saying null, right? Because there is nothing defined here. If I write task input, just it is nothing. Okay. And the thing is, when we are writing here, you remember that inside when we do the thing in MAD1 project, we have used something called as input type and we also have its value, right? When we are passing some value inside this, so we write the name and value. So with that name inside a form, we use that thing in the form to get the data in the backend, right? Same thing we are using here. We are not putting any value thing here, but just with the ID thing, we are trying to get this form input type input tag value. That's why we are writing this value here. Clear? So let me just do this. So task input dot value we are adding. Okay. After this value, what we want to have we check if there is task or not. If there is task we have added or not. That means I should not add just something. I should not click on add button. That means if I have not written anything here and I click on add button, it should not append anything in this list. Clear? So that means I will check whether I have something here or not. Okay. So inside this task name. Clear? So let me just create this first. Create. Let's check if task name is there. This is a normal if condition of JavaScript similar to Python. The structure is a little bit different, but many things are same. Okay. Now what we do, we define some another list item. List item. And how do we get this list item? In this list item, we have not defined because we are defining a list item here and we have not defined any listing here. It is looking like that we have defined a list here, but it is not available. We have just defined this thing, unordered list. But this unordered list is not visible for now. If I add a list item here, okay, and I add, you see, it is now coming here, right? Let's keep it as it is. Now just go here and we are defining a new list item. So document dot create element, and we create the element using this document get create element function list item. We create this list item element. Clear? Because there was no list item element available there, and we want to add a new list item because you see here I have added this list item, right? Now what I want is inside this I want to add another list item, because if I add another list item, let me just copy paste here, you see, then it will come here as second list item, right? You see here the difference. This thing already you know. So I am creating a new element, list item, and in this list item, what will I do? I will add the text of this list item. So list item dot inner text equals what we want to assign this. We want to assign this inner text to the task name. Whatever task we are writing inside this task value, we want to assign that to this inner text of this list item, which we have created here. Clear? Now what we do, we will do task list, which we have defined here as this task list, which is coming from this unordered list ID. Okay. So in this, what we want is we want to add something to it. Now see here, there is something called child and parent thing in JavaScript. So if you see it, see now when we have, if we call this as a complete document, this complete document, this is our body. So inside this body is called a parent, and its immediate first child is this h1. Okay. Similarly, if I go to any tag and see what comes inside that. So if I go to this tag, then this is the parent tag. Then inside this tag which is coming, which is list item is coming. So that means this is the child tag. So I will append a new child to this particular list, unordered list. Clear? Append child, and in this append child I will write list item which I have defined. Clear? And then I will write task input, which is the task input which I have, and set the task input value again to null. Let's say I call this rated. Now you see the difference. What will happen? Okay, so now our code is complete here. Let us just close this also. Now you see what will happen. If I write anything here running, it's not coming. Argument listener. What is it saying? something will not close. It is not close. Let's see if it works. We didn't add event listener. On click, this is fine. And we are defining this. Now if we close this and we close this, that's fast. This is the button. Modify. We will add event listener. Let's check it using this triple equal to. Only this thing, right? So and then this node, then we have click. Other something verify. And then this property of null. Inputs. This is here. This stuff, this things are multiply. Oh, they will use this thing. This icon we defined as the same thing we did. Just leave it for now. Let us see for this case of view then. We will see to it what is the issue in this. Before this, let us create the app for the same thing for view. Okay. So if we want to do the same thing, achieve the same thing using view. So what we will do in that scenario, to do up using view. Now, this is not what we want actually. So what we do is we will have a input here in this input type text. This will do the same thing. Now these things are not required for now. Okay, we can just ignore these things. ID is also not required. ID again not required. Okay. So what we do in this scenario is we have this to-do app using Vue. So what we do here, we add V model. Now what is V model do? It do the same thing as we were doing with the V ID. Okay, V dash model and define the same thing as task name, the similar thing which you have defined here as ID. So what it will do, it will get the value of the thing which you are writing inside this view, inside this input box. Okay. Now after this, what we want is we want to have the button, and the button will be like on click, at click, at task. The function which we will define later on. Okay. Then what we want another thing as an ordered list, and inside this ordered list we will have list item. We add the list item here, and in this list item we will use v for. So what is this v for? V for is just like a for loop you have studied in Python, the for loop which we have studied in the JavaScript also. Just we write v for. That means it checks the view element which we have defined, view data item which we define in the script tag. Okay, like here if you see that we have defined some data item, right? So data was returning something. So data was returning if we define here data as some, let's say a list, or let's say instead of list we call it like array. If I define an array here, so it will look for that array here, that v for, okay, equals to for task in task. We will define the task named array in the data item later on. Okay, and in this we want to have the data. Data will be like task. This task is coming from this task. So the similar loop thing like you have done in Jinja. Okay. So we did here. Now next thing is what we want is we have some key. Key is task. Clear? Key is, you can say key is just like your index. Clear? Now we are done with the view thing inside this. Now let us move on to the view app here. So what do we write? Firstly we initiate. Also we forgot one thing to add here. Let's have this ID. Div ID as app, and then just close this. X this. No, let us do it. Const app equals, we define a app of view using view object view creator, and in this app what we are doing is we are creating the data thing which I have already told you yesterday. So what we keep in data, in this data we will keep two things. One is this task list, and other thing is this task name. Clear? So in this data tab we keep two things. One is this task name, and this should be empty, and other thing is we keep task name list. We can say array. Clear? And data just returns thing. So we write it like this. Any doubts in this?
No. So in general, what we say, what we need to keep in data, in general, what we say. Like what thing we
In
need to
general, what we keep in data is we need to keep the things which will show in our frontend. We are, or all the data which we are getting from the back end, we keep in the data. Or you can say the dynamic tags we keep in the data. Those things which keep on changing, which we dynamically change in the front end app.
means we have kept here
You
the
will,
ID of that, and we
yes,
have on the second thing that is task that the value has been passed to that, correct?
yes. Let me show the other demo. That was also one, I think. If you show, see this, let me show the same thing. Let's say this admin dashboard which you create. Okay. Then we are keeping, what are we keeping here? Users. These are the list thing which we are keeping here because we want to iterate over these lists only, right? That's the thing which we want to show.
Yes, yes. On the dashboard, what we want to show, we have
Yes,
kept it, right?
yes, yeah. So all those things which we are fetching from here, we are fetching these things from here. This I will explain later. So these things we fetch here. So we are showing those things here. Here, here we are not going to fetch these things, but we are just when we are writing something, we click on add button. Those things get added in our view app below in the list. Clear?
Okay.
Now after this, we define methods, and in the methods, what we write is we define methods like for adding thing, adding task, add task which we have defined here. On click, it should add a task. This is a function which we have defined. So we should define this is like that. Add task. This function we are defining. So what we do in this, we check again if we have written some task or not. If this dot task name equal to empty, we will check. If not equal to empty, let's say if there is task name inside it. Okay, we check if there is some task name inside this we have written or not. Okay, why is this red coming? Oh, this close. Okay, last one is not closed now. It is taking. Continue to get updated. So we are checking if there is some task in this or not. And then what we do inside this task list, we will push our task name. So this dot, this means we are referring to the same app elements, app data points here, data which we are returning here. This task and task name, we will use this thing for referring these elements. Clear? This dot task dot push. We will push this. What do we push here? We will push the task name. Okay. And then we make the task name as empty. And that inside our function. Clear? Now let us do it here. Where I add. You see, the task is not coming here. What task in PH? Actually, we have not mounted the app yet, right? Let us mount the app also. After this, has app. And this has app something. Okay. This is the page. Yeah. definition है. So I think this is because we have defined ID as here also. Okay. So let us go. It is async first ID which is available here. We have defined ID here also. So let us make it app2. Okay. So make it app2. Now you see it is working. Whatever I want to write here, it will be added in the list. Clear?
Line number 1110 means after addition, it should remain empty like this. It means
This is making this empty. That means if I am writing something here, let's say I write something here, and on clicking the add button, it should make this box empty. So this
okay,
box
that.
thing is becoming again empty. If I write, let's say, if I write something here, okay, now you see why is coming automatically. This is what we are setting the value. Okay, so this value is we have set here. Clear? So this thing you can use when you are using, let's say, customer is booking some service. So some price, automatic price you can set here that this price should come. Like the base price you can keep that this is the base price.
In
Right?
searching also, I think we can see, right? When
Yeah,
we
in
need
searching
to
you can
search.
also give this thing. Yes. Similar issue was in this app also. The JavaScript piece. Now let us make it. Control. Now it will look better. Okay. Now this is the thing which I want to explain, which is v-for. Okay. Let me just amend this code. JavaScript. Any doubts in this?
Yeah, in line number 54. Hello.
Line number. Hello. Yes.
In line number 54, you wrote key. What is the work of that?
That key is, you can say, just like a ID thing. In for loop, if we want to show the index also, we can use this key thing here. Okay.
Okay.
For task and task, if you want to show the index also, let's say you are showcasing this index numbers also, you can use the key task there. You can use the uh, number there. Okay. Okay. So now let us see some fetch API calls. Based on that, we will move on because fetch API calls is the thing which we will be using in our app to do the fetch calls. So what is this fetch? Let me show. See fetch API. So this is the JavaScript provided API for fetching data from the backend, or you can say from any API endpoint. You can just use write the API endpoint there, and it will fetch the content from that API. Clear? So now if you want to fetch the content, we are using fetch. Other way of using this, the fetching the content, other way of using this is using Axios API. Now for that thing, you have to use for Axios API, you have to import the Axios first in your JavaScript, in your JS files or the Vue files, and then you can use the Axios. But Axios makes is the difficult a different library, which makes it a little bit typical to fetch contents from the backend or any API. Clear? So this is the fetch API is directly provided by the JavaScript. So just use this fetch API. So what it does is these are some of the types of data which it returns. So this is the authorization letter, authorization header things which we are passing into this fetch call. Okay. So let me show you the example of fetch. In the JavaScript. Okay. So there is a link or JSON. Yeah, JSON placeholder. So this is giving us a API, an API in format. You can say API result or JSON formatted data in form of a list, right? This is a JSON entry. This is another JSON. This is another JSON, right? On all these JSONs are available inside this list, which this link provides us. So you can say that this is the, if we use the fetch API for this link, then it will give us the content using the get call. Clear? Now the issue with fetch is that if you use fetch, then you have to define the fetch is not able to get the network error codes. Let's say if you are fetching something from the any API, then fetch will not tell you that this data is accessed or not accessed. You have to manually handle those error cases. Clear? So let us use this link first to fetch content from the.
Can you give examples for this, sir?
Okay, I am writing the code, then you will see the example.
Okay.
Let's say I am fetching the data. Okay, from fetching the data from which link? I am fetching the data from this link, this URL. Or you can just define it here also. And just put the URL directly there. Okay. Now after we do this fetch thing, next thing we do is done. After fetching, what should it do? These things are all these things depend on promise, resolving promise, and all these things. So you can just think it basic English. If you just think it basic English, then it will be easier for you to understand these things. In case of a fetch request, when you do fetch request, it gives us something. When we do some fetch request from this API, you can say this is the API endpoint and it is giving us a list. Okay, you can say this is giving us a list of all the services. You can say this is giving us a list of all the service requests. This is giving us the list of all the unapproved users. You can say this is giving us all the approved users list. Okay, and their details also. These are their details. User ID, you see user ID, title, body, just random text is there. But you see, these are some, you can think of these as some details, which it is giving us in a JSON format. Clear? So when we do something using this fetch URL, so what we do is we say that when we are getting something, then we say that fetching, we fetch something, and then I am saying then English word, and then we do this then here also. Okay. So fetch something, then what we do, it gives us a promise response actually. So that's why we write dot. Then what to do after getting the response, and it returns that response in this response format. Then response, what to do with the response? This response we get, convert that response to the response of JSON. Whatever data you are getting from the fetch URL, using this URL, this is a response you get, and you can say this is a response object we get, and we convert this response object into response.json to JSONify the content, show the content in JSON format. Clear? And after getting this
So
data
it is already in
JSON
JSON
format,
format only, right? What API
it
and
is,
calls to be for?
yeah, it is returning, but we have to make it JSON also. Maybe the data is when we are sending the data or not, maybe it is not an API, or maybe it is not in the JSON. That's why we have to do this thing mandatory, that it returns the data in a JSON format to us. Because
Okay,
later
so we
on we
are
will be
putting one
accessing this data.
restriction on that.
Yes. We are putting one restriction on that, that we are getting the data in JSON format. After this, what we do, we will do again when, if we got the data, then what to do with the data? Use, create a new function, arrow function, and in this arrow function, we write, what we do, we write the data as console.log. Let's say log the data now. That means then means just then thing you understand in normal English. Fetch this thing, then what to do? Convert the response which you have fetched to response.json. Then convert the data which you have got from the fetch URL to console.log.json. Not converting, just printing it on the console. Okay. Then what to do? Then we will catch error. If there is some error, then we catch that error. And how to catch this error? These three things a function returns us, or a fetch API call returns us: response, data, and error. This data thing, this response thing, and this error thing is predefined by the fetch API call. Clear?
Yes.
Is it clear?
Yes, yes, yes.
Response, fetch, and error. So now what we want, that instead of this, if we want that, we want to log the error also, we can log the error, console.log error. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now let us go to our app and go to its inspect console. It is giving us the array as returned here, which is the data console.log data. There is no error. So this is the data which is available here. As this data is logged here. This complete data. Clear? Any doubts on this?
No.
Fetch API call gives us three things: response, data, and error. We convert the response to JSON first, and then data we are logging here, error we are also logging. And if you want to show the error in the alert message, then just write, instead of this console.log, just write alert error. Alert error dot message. What is the error message you are getting? Just show that in the alert. Clear? Clear? If there is some error, just show that there. Now let us see how to do these things using async and await. Now what is async and await? This thing is just as normal English. Again, I will say normal English thing. In normal English, what we call as async. If I go to Google, asynchronous task. What is asynchronous task? It is a task which happens when we are not doing any other task. It happens automatically at a particular time, or after a particular time. You see what it says? A non-blocking architecture, which means that it does not block further execution when more operations are in progress. So there are two things. One is synchronous, other is asynchronous. So you can just read about what is synchronous task, what is asynchronous task. So synchronous task means going on in a step by step. That means if you are doing some operation, that means let's say we do in database, we have learned that we have asset properties, right? So those things happen completely. Either it process completely or just fails, right? Asset properties are there in database. Similar thing we have here in. But if we want asset properties not to be used, then we have this asynchronous thing. That means these things happen without the async calls happen without anyone's intervention. When something happens, just it happens automatically at that time. We can schedule these things to happen also. Clear? See, you can read this here. When you execute something asynchronously, you can move on to another task before it finishes. That means you do not have to wait for this task to complete. You can just move on to the next task. It is just like you are running more applications in your mobile app, and 3 4 applications are running together, and you are just seeing it in the recent task. So 3 4 applications are running together. One task is now dependent on the other task. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes,
What are
yes.
asynchronous
Yes.
tasks? This is a basic English which I can explain for this. Okay, so let me just comment this, otherwise it will show everything, these things here. So, okay. Now let us define with async and await. Now async,
And await means we need to wait for some time, and after that the
yes,
task
yes,
will be executed. Okay.
yes, async and await. That means we create async function. Async function means a asynchronous function. Async means asynchronous function, and await means wait for something to happen. That means we create a new function which will happen only after this function completes execution. Clear? So what we do in this scenario is that we one way is doing this thing. Okay. Other way is using the asynchronous task. Asynchronous task means, let's say, when you are logging out, you are on a page, you are logging out. So logging out depends on some other task. You are in your Facebook profile, you are in your Instagram profile, you are going to log out button. So this logout button depends on some other task. No, you just want to log out, you click on logout button, it logs out. Right? That is an async task. It does not depend on any other task to happen. And if we want that logout task should happen only after you, let's say you have post something. So if you use 2 or 3 Instagram accounts in your mobile, then you may have seen that one Instagram, when you posted story from one Instagram account, you cannot directly switch to another Instagram account from that app. It says posting one story and please wait for some time before it posts, right? So those things they have used async await like thing there, that once this thing complete, then do that task. Clear? So
Yes.
async and await, using the async and await, we try to use the little bit synchronous things properties here. That first this thing should happen, then this thing should happen. Are you getting this? Because async await
Yes.
functions you have to use at many places in your app which you will be making using Vue. That's why I am going this async and await also.
If
So
I'll give
now,
example, I think if we are deleting something, then we need to use that await and the thing,
yes, you can use that there also.
like cascade deleting the thing, right?
Not like that actually, but cascade delete is you are doing in the database. You are not doing any database operation here. Those things are you are doing in the backend. You are doing only things which are in the front end. Let's say I gave an
Okay, okay.
example of a logout. Okay. Other example I can give is, let's say you want to showcase, you are showing, let's say, let's take the example of household services. In that, you are showing your app's data. Let's say first is the unapproved users list. Then you are showing the approved users list. Then you are showing all the what we call as all the services.
Rejected.
Then yeah, all the rejected users and all the services and all the service requests. So the thing is users type. That means if a user is approved or not approved, right? So as soon as you click on the approved user button, that thing should go directly into the next button, right? Let's say a user is there. you click on the user as flag. Just a minute. Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
So let's say you want to have that kind of functionality, which on clicking just go to the next thing. Let's say you click on flag button, and on flagging, then it should go to the next response. That means it will just go in the next line. When we use that thing in case of our Madman application, when we click on flag button to a particular user, then that refreshes the page and then show that this user is flagged, right? Other
Right.
task is, so other task is you may have the export feature, the export of the data using CSV. So export task is also async task. If you go to the project statement also, they say backend jobs or asynchronous jobs. Those happen at a particular time only, and those happen automatically without anyone's intervention. One is, let me go to here. Chips. See, the core functionalities, if you see there, then see the application should send automatic emails, backend jobs. Okay. Then this is scheduled jobs, which happen at a particular time automatically. Then user triggered async jobs. Async job means it will not take any other thing intervention. That means it will happen automatically when we click on the button. It will not take any other thing feature. That means if a user is doing something, let's say our application is used by many people at and any place, a user is doing some other task. So our server should not get some load of it, and we can perform our task asynchronously using this async functions.
It's independent.
Yeah, means independent. That means because if a person is using a server for something, then in that scenario, the server is continuously working for it. But you can see this is a parallel processing of the task. Parallel, if you want to do some other task, you can use async task. Clear?
Okay. Okay.
Doing two tasks simultaneously using async. Okay. So if you recall from this, then this is async job, and Ritya has also taught you like using the async function, we have created those things in the async thing, export task. Okay. So let us go there. Now let us use the async await for the same thing. Now let us define a function. Now in this async function, what we do, we are not passing anything for now. Okay. We will use that direct URL there. In this async function, let's say this is an arrow function. Okay. This means we are defining a function which will not change and fetch data. When we call this function, it will asynchronously fetch the data from the URL which we provide. Clear? Now let us define how will this function look like. Now in this function, what we do first, we try if we get something or not. Earlier also, we have not tried actually, but here we will try because this is a function we are defining. So try and catch thing we will do. Okay. Try if there is some error or not. If there is something we can get, then we will use that const. We will say const response equals await. And in this case, what we do, await and fetch the content from the URL. Await, fetch. Now fetch is the API call which we are doing, right? So let's just copy this thing as it is. Okay. And from this, fetch API call, you see it is saying finally catch after this because it is not complete yet. After this, we will say const data, and then again for data thing we will say response.json await response.json. And remember one thing, that await can only be called inside the async function. Await can only be called inside the async function. You cannot use await in any other function. If it is not defined as async function, you cannot use await there. Clear? So let's say if a user is logging out, so logging out thing you can say that, let's say user is logging out and user also has posted some story on Instagram, and instantly user go to log out. So this thing will check whether the user has posted the story or not. And if a user story posting is done, then it will get the data here and it will do the thing of logging out. Otherwise it will not log out, it will show the error which we have defined here. As the error is message, you see that you can't log out and all these things, or you can't change your account in Instagram. Clear? Console.log data. Now we will catch error because we are using try. We should use a catch block also. Now after this try is completing here, try box block is completing here, then we do catch. Try this thing or catch the error. Now this is the same error which we are catching here. Clear? Console.log the error. Clear? Just the thing is we are doing these things now using the async and await calls. Now what we do call this function because this is a function which we defined. We have defined the function. We have not called the function yet. And in this scenario, we have not defined any function. We have just used the fetch call. We just use the fetch API to now let's do fetch data. And now it is fetching the data. Now you see it will take some time to fetch the data. Clear? If I do this thing, refresh, it took some time. But if you see here, see the difference. First it loads instantly as soon as the app loads. And after this, it came a little later, right? Because it waited for this thing and then it called it fetch data function. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now you can also export and import your JS files content from one file to another file. This thing will be required in VueJS while doing the work of routing. As I have already shown you that while routing, you import some files from one place. From the components folder, you import the files and then show those components in the routing page and then make the routes. So similar thing we can also do here. Let me just comment this. So let us have one more file, math.js. Okay, inside this file, we will define export and we define a constant like function, add function. Okay. Now add function does what? Addition a comma b, and it returns. It takes add function is we are defining as a constant function. Okay. So we are defining add function and then writing a plus b. So this is the function which we have defined here. So let's say it is giving other functions also, similar functions we have defined here. Now if I want to import this thing, my app.js. So how will I add? I will write import add subtract, and what other function was there? Multiply and divide. Okay. Divide from dot slash math.js. Okay. Now it is, why is it coming like what we call is unused thing? Because it is not highlighted for now, because we have not used it anywhere. So this syntax thing, this look thing will help you in telling that whether the thing which you have imported is used in the component folder, components or routes or not. Okay. So we can do, let's say, do all these things. Segment outside, huh? क्या हो गया? See, the similar thing we have used here also. Okay. So this thing we have to do type.module inside this index or HTML. Here we are importing this script. Where is the script which we imported? App.js, make it type equals to module. Okay. Now you see it is working fine. Now you see this is working fine. Now what was the issue why it was not working? Because in case of VueJS also, when you create the app using Vue CDN, or even if you create the app using Vue CLI, you have to use the Vue using the module thing only. You write this app.script thing, because in this case what is happening is we have created the Vue app here only. With the Vue app here only, that's why we are not requiring the use of this module thing. But if we create a Vue different components in different files, then we require this module thing, because it tells us that we are using the script app.js as a module type. Module type means importing, it will import some things and exporting other things also. With this thing you will also got this. Let me show you where are we going to use this thing. So let's say if we create our index, where is index EC, see here, we are, you see, main.js is the main file which we have, and we are importing it using the type module. Why? Because when we go to the main.js, yes, see here, so it is importing some things, right? It is importing some things, that's why we are going to these things there. Clear? Any doubts in this?
I'm not clear on that. Can you please repeat once?
Okay, so we use when we use the view thing, then we import this using is the code. Yeah, see here in the index.html, when we import the main file, because this is the main file which connects our app to the view, right? And in this scenario, which we have made here, in this scenario, this index.html file is the one which connects our app.js script, right? But in this case, what we did, we imported something in the app.js. We imported something. We imported something in the app.js, right? When we import something in the app.js, we want to use this app.js as a module type file. When we import something or export something, these things we do, then we use this as a module type thing, like we have defined here. When we import this thing, then we write also as type equals to module.
Okay.
Okay, this thing is helpful for you in the view thing, view app, because in the view you will be having different files, different JavaScript files if you use view CDN, and you will be having different mm, .view files if you are using the view CLI. In that scenario, what you have is you have different main.js file and router.js. So in that scenario, you are importing these things right from the node modules you are importing, or you are importing from the CDN. That's why we are using this module thing to make it work like a module. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So now let us move on to creating the app using view router. Okay. So let's do one thing before let us create the app directly. So let me close this folder. So this is the app which we have created already. The backend thing is already there. Frontend thing we are going to create now. Let us open terminal also. Now in the terminal, we can already run the backend thing, but I have not imported the libraries here, not created the virtual environment, so that's why I'm not running. Okay. So let us now create the frontend folder using view CLI. Now for this, go to the view website. In the view website, go to get started. Okay. Uh, Here it is. Quick start. So with this quick start thing, you can just import the view just using this command npm create view latest. Given that you have installed npm and node in your laptop or desktop, then you can use this command to create the view project. Previously, we created the view project using view CLI, different command that was a little bit different and that works slowly. But now what we do is we have added functionality of view with white. So you see this is a view with white. You see it is already telling view with white, which helps us in setting up the app faster and helps us in using the single file components. So how to create the app?
So what we
Copy
need
this
to
command
install, can you please mention in this chat?
first in your laptop. Go to Node.js install, download the Node.js latest version, long-term support one. Okay. For the Windows, you can just write these commands. Windows, if you are using the line, write these commands, and it will install Node in your laptop or desktops. And then just use this command node v, node minus v or npm minus tell you that node and npm is already installed in your laptop. Okay, so it is already installed. It is telling me node npm also telling. Now what is node? Node is a runtime environment files. Not able to run the JavaScript files inside any terminal. That's why I have node here. Clear? And what is npm? You can think it like I think I got left from the
Yeah,
meet.
your voice was also not clear that time. What you were telling us, that was not clear that time.
Okay,
After
okay. Let
Node.js,
me just,
you share no. After that, your voice was not clear.
okay, okay. So what we do is you can think it like Node is just like a runtime environment for JavaScript files. Okay, JavaScript code. Node is just a runtime environment for them. And you can think it like that. If Node is like Python, then npm is like pip. In Python, we have pip install libraries and all these things. Similarly, in we have Node, we have npm, Node Package Manager. Clear? In Python, we have different pip version. Pip 3, it automatically says that in update pip, upgrade pip using this command and all these things. Similarly, we have npm also and Node also there. You can think that if Node is like a Python virtual environment thing, then you have this npm as a pip. Clear? So
Okay,
just
okay.
go to the Node website. What you said, Naman?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Proceed, proceed. You are showing the that no.
Yes. So let us create the app. Just copy this command. Npm create view latest. Okay. Now it will ask you project name. Now I am inside this folder mat project, then mat2 project, which is the folder which I opened. In this folder, I already have this backend folder and frontend folder. Backend folder already has some files. Frontend folder is not having any files. So what I will do, I will name the view project as the frontend itself, and then my complete project will be created in the frontend folder. Clear? So let me write it here. Frontend. Now add TypeScript, no need. Add JSX support, no need. View router, yes, we need to add the view router. Just move the cursor and yes. Add pinia for state management, no need for this. White test for testing, no need for this. And no need for this, also no need. Done. Your project is now created. You can see this complete file structure is now available here. The typical file structure which you were getting confused at what are these files and all. So it is now installed here. Clear?
Clear, clear. So only we need to install Vue.js, right?
You need to install Node.js.
Node.js. Okay, okay.
This is the Node.js
Node.js.
website. Just go to nodejs.org. Open source
Mm-hmm.
website is there. Just go there. If you are a Windows user, go to your command prompt or PowerShell. If you are a Linux user, go to your terminal. If you are Mac user, go to your terminal again and run these commands as they have given and then install the node in your laptop. Clear?
Okay. Only this alone, correct?
Yes, only this thing. And if you
Okay,
install
okay.
node, then you can just use this command which is npm create view latest. Now it is also telling that write your project name, then these things are there. Then your project is created. Now what all things you have to run? You have to run, let me close this. It is also telling that now run cd frontend, go to the frontend folder, npm install and npm run dem. What will npm install do? Npm install all the node modules. And how will it install the node modules? It will install the node modules based on this package.json file and what node modules to install and this json.config file. So it is telling exclude node modules or this thing. Okay, then this is this JavaScript files and all which you can ignore for now. Okay, so let us now go to this is the src folder which you can see automatically it is giving us some of the files and folders. So you don't worry about that. You don't have to create the folder structure by your own. It just when you do this npm create view latest. Any doubts in this?
Yes, hello.
Hello, any doubts in this?
Yeah, after creating
Yes.
means after creating view file, so we don't need to upgrade so that we can run smoothly in Viva 2.
Where to upgrade?
Means we don't need to upgrade view setup.
No need for upgrading means I'm not getting you. Upgrading means
Means view file just you wrote npm.
no need for upgrading npm. Just it is working fine, then no issues.
Okay.
Even if you upgrade the npm, that will not affect this thing. Okay. Even if you update your npm, it will not affect these things.
Okay,
Now
thank
let
you.
us, as it is telling, write cd frontend, and after this write npm install npm install. Now it will install node modules in my structure in the frontend folder. It will create the node modules and it will create node modules faster because I am directly in the Linux. If I am in the Windows and then I am working, if I'm in the Ubuntu and then working in the Windows using MNT and all, then it will take time. But in this scenario, it will work faster. It will create node modules faster as compared to earlier. Yes. Okay, so it has added 147 packages and all these things. Now our node modules are created. You see, one folder is created here. Node modules. Clear?
Yes,
Now just do the same command which is that npm run dev. Npm. Now your project is running on the front end. This is how your basic project looks like on the front end. It is given by the view only. Okay. See here. Now what is this? This is Vue DevTools because we have installed this Vue DevTools. If you want to disable this, you can just go there and disable this. It is telling you what are the files there, what are the routes and home views, all these things there. Clear? Just close this here. Now see, home is there, about is there. This is an about page. This is view. This is view white and view. Okay, view 3 and white both combined using this view or this view. Clear?
yes, clear.
Now Pinia, these things we are not going to use. Okay, and you see here when we are clicking on about thing, about here, then the route is also changing. If I go to home, the route is normal, but if I click on about, the route is also changing. This is an about page. Clear? So nothing more is available here. Just we can now go to the pages only, view website only. These things are linked to their official documentation and all. Okay. Now, if you see here that you are also seeing this view logo here coming in the favicon, so we can also update this later on by making the ICO file, any image you create, and convert it to ICO file and upload it in the folder. Now let us look at again the structure of the, this is not of concern. Yeah. Okay. So this is the front end is now running here. Now let me show you the front end structure.
So while submitting our project, we can zip it. We don't need to remove these things, correct?
We
We
can
can
zip this
include in this
completely. We can just remove the, we have to just remove the node modules because it is around 200 MB file.
modules.
It
Okay,
is
okay.
around 200 MB folder. Okay. So you have to
Okay.
just remove this folder node modules, and then you can move further. Just remove the node modules and remove the virtual environment if you've created in the inside backend or outside backend, whatever is the
Okay.
case. Just remove those two things, and then when you are running the app in the Viva, just show these things to them. Clear?
So
And now
more
if you,
node modules we again need to install, right? As we have installed
yes,
just now.
yes.
Okay.
Just the thing is, you no need to create this npm create view latest. Just you have to write two commands, npm install and then npm run dev. These two commands you have to use when you are installing your node modules again.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay.
Like going into the frontend folder. Now, how is it installing the node modules with respect to Vue only? Because node modules are there in the React folders and other Next.js and all these things. But why? How is it installing these node modules based on our Vue folder? It is because of these config files, JSON and all. You see, this is telling that if you see, this is a very large file, package log.json. So it is telling what all things to install, node modules are babel.js and all these things to install. Okay, and it is telling that this is for wide build preview and for the view, wide view plugin and DevTools and all these things. It is telling these things here. Clear? Now the
Okay.
SRC folder you were earlier in tensed about this, how to create the SRC folder, all the file structure. So now if you see that this is looking much better when you have seen the earlier folder, right? So this is your project folder where we will be working further. So now let me show you the files again. Let us go to public folder. This is a favicon which you want to remove. You can remove later on. Okay. Now this SRC, these assets, these things you can remove. These are not for us. These are just for removing because we are not going to use these things. Okay. For now, let us just comment them, and wherever we are importing these things, we will just remove those things. Otherwise, our project will show some errors here. So let me just control slash commented this, and let's comment this also. Control slash. Why is it not commenting? Okay, already it is commented here, na? One by one we can comment this. You can even safely remove this, but I am commenting it so that if you want to use it later, you can use it later also. Clear? Now you see the look will become very bad. All this is because of removing those CSS and all. Clear? Just let us keep this as it is. Look bigger. Yeah. Now look is again back. Clear. So now what are this components folder? These icons thing you can safely remove. These are just icons, community dev icons, all those things here. Just so let us clean this folder now. Okay. Now let me show you the structures also here. First, before removing this. So how is it working? Index.html is there. Clear? Now in this index.html, we are importing this already. Script type as module src main.js. Clear in this thing? Is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Now why module? You already know why module is there. Now we go to main.js. Now firstly, how is the flow of control working? Let me explain that. So firstly, this is connecting with the main.src. Src main.js. Okay. Now we go to main.js. In this, it is importing these assets. Then it is importing this create app. The create app thing, which we have defined in the Vue CDN. Thus, this thing is importing from Vue. Now, what is this Vue thing? It is coming from, you can say, node modules. Okay. Now, this is app.vue, importing app from app.vue. This is coming from node module. This is coming from app.vue, import app from app.vue, and importing the router from .router. That means this file router dot. This is actually your router.js, I guess. Okay, then it is creating this app using this create app, which is important from Vue, and then creating this app instance like the Flask thing it is doing. Now app.use router and app.mount, the same thing which we have done earlier also. App.mount we have already done. Now app.use router, it will use router because we have said yes for that. Now there is one more file here, which is router.js, index.js, you see. Now this file is doing the main thing of showing this about page and home page. Okay, so we are importing this create router, create web history from Vue router, this thing from node modules again. Then we are importing this .views. That means you're going into back directory and then importing views direct. Go to the views directory or views folder and then import home view.view. Now const router, we are defining these things and then create web history. Just simple things for this. Ignore these things for now. Okay. Then this routes we are defining here. Clear? And then we are doing this export default route. The same thing which I told you that we can export these things also. Now this is exported here. Now it will be imported somewhere else. Okay. Now we go to components. Now in this components you see hello world.view. Now in these components we have these things define props and all these things. You can just ignore these things because these are not much use. Okay. Let us go to template thing. Now what is this template? How is it working? So this template is defined similar to what we have defined in our HTML file. Instead of the HTML code, we have just defined this template here. So it will look there only. Clear? So if you want to create the same app which we have created the add task app, task to do app. Okay. So we can also create the to do app using the div thing. So let me show that thing also. Uh, I closed that folder. No? Okay, it is still open. Yes. So let us. Okay. Now here what we do, we will create another. Let me comment this. Actually, this thing will almost remain the same, but let us just do a little bit thing using the div tag. Okay, so the changes we can use is, let me comment this.
So you just now use the live server thing. It is required or not? I
No,
think
no,
it is
this
for
live server
HTML, right?
thing no, no, this live server thing is required for HTML. I am showing you how to use the template file. What is this template file coming there? I am showing you that thing. This template thing. I am going to explain you this thing. How is this working?
In
Okay,
our
so I am,
man to live server is not required, correct?
yeah, this is not required there because it
Uh,
is running, frontend is running on this server and backend will be running on the Flask server.
okay.
localhost 500, port number 5000. Okay. So this is, let me just close this one. I am explaining you this, what is this template thing which is coming there. Okay. Now I invented this. Now let us create the Vue app using this templating thing. Okay, little bit template I will write, so you get to know with that. With this thing, you will get to know the process for Vue CDN. Okay, so let us again create div and set this ID equals app3. Let us call this app3 because to app. Okay. Now inside this div, what we do, we define, we do the same thing to do app using Vue. Okay. Okay. Now we define two things which are add task, and in this case what we do, we actually create two components. So this will help you know the CDN structure like thing also. Okay. So let us create the components. Add task component I am creating here. Okay. It is not defined anywhere else. I am just I will just define a new component called add task. Okay. What will this component do? It will add the task which we are going to do. So on clicking this add task, it will add the task. Clear? Add task, getting confused. So let us just keep it add only. I know it is not understanding now. I am just creating it. Then you will see what it will look like. Okay. So now we want to have another thing for task list. So this thing is another component which I will create. So that means the same thing which we have done earlier. Like there was task list and there was the button, right? There was the text box and button. On clicking that on clicking that add button, writing that something in the text box and clicking add button, it adds the task to the list. Now the same thing we are going to do here, but using components. Okay, template and components. So we define one component, we are using one component here, another component we are using here. Okay. In this component, we will be showing the tasks. Task equals to task. Clear? Now this all ends here. Okay. This all ends here. If I show you this thing in the hello world.view, you can also see similar thing available here also. It is just using this thing. Okay. If you go to the Vue CDN app, which I have also shown you for the IESCP, but in that scenario, what we have used router view, we have used router view like thing. We have used this thing in the Vue CDN app, but this thing is not required in this app because we are already importing those things in the main.js and other places, main.js and index.js and all these things. Clear?
This is CLI thing, right?
Yeah, it is a CLI thing, but in if you do it using the Vue CDN, then in that scenario, you have to use this router view here in the Vue CDN. Clear? So, because actually we are not doing this thing using CLI, we are doing this thing using CDN. That's why we are writing these components here itself. Okay. And if you do the router thing, then you just define the router view here and define the components in the components file, the router.js, and then import the components from the admin dashboard.js and user dashboard.js and all these things. Like I have shown you the app yesterday. Clear? So now let us create the script for this. Now it will be a little bit different. So let us just comment it. Okay, now we are defining add task. As you can say, you can say it is as a object of the view. Okay, it will have all those things which we were defining earlier. What it will contain? It will contain data, then it will contain the methods, and then it will also contain the template thing. This time it is containing the template also. You see, this template is automatically coming here, and we use this template thing using the backticks. Template, then backticks, and then closing this template. I have also shown you this thing yesterday, if you recall from there, right? I have shown you this thing. View CDN project I have shown you yesterday, if you recall from there.
This
I have
backtick.
shown you. Should I show you again? Let me show you again. See here, how I am defining this template. I am defining the template using this backticks. Okay, now in this scenario, what I did, I have defined this template in app.js file. All these things I am importing here, and already I am importing this app.js as a module type in my index.html. And this thing I said that we are using this router view here because we are going to show it using the router view. So in the app.js, we are creating this router, okay, and then showing it using the router view, const app, create view app, and all these things. And then these are the routes which we have defined. Clear? And these are the components which we are importing from. Components, or you can say that if you correlate with the HTML files in your Mad1 project, then these are called templates. Okay, so these are your all these files. Now you see the structure here. Const create, we have first thing we have is template. Other thing we have is data. Use comma in all this, defining all these things, and data. Third thing we have is methods. These data and methods we were using earlier also, right? And in the methods we define all the functions. To create a campaign, then const campaign name.this.name. That means we are defining the campaign data, that name, description, end date, budget, and visibility. Budget, this thing I am setting initially to 0. This is the initial thing which I am setting. So this is dot budget. You may want to add a budget. Okay. Then this is fetching from the backend API. We are fetching from the campaigns API, and this method and header thing we are going to define there. So I will tell you these things later. This then thing is again the same thing which we have already done in our fetch request, fetch API calls. Okay. Then this catch thing we have also done. Now this async function I have also told you, this async is export task thing. So exporting task and logout thing, you can say logout is also async function. Clear? Now how all these things are working, you will get to know with time. And this mounted thing is, what is this mounted thing? It tells us that what thing should be loaded at first when we open the app for the open that router page for the first time. Clear? What thing should be what data should come on the page when we open this router page for the first time. That means if I open the create campaign page, what thing should come for the first time. Clear?
Can you please share this project
Yeah, this is
so
already
that
available
we
on
can
GitHub.
see? Okay, can you
This
please
is
share the
already
URL,
available
please?
on GitHub. Yeah, sure. Here is your influencer sponsor management platform. So in this case, you can see backend folder is there, the things, and then we have the frontend folder. And frontend folder we have the assets, the SRC things and all. Then we have components, and in the components I have defined all these things. Okay. Then go back and go to app.js. So the thing is, if you see at least two projects, one or two projects in Vue CDN, and then see projects in CLI, then you will get to know the actual difference between both of them. Okay, the difference is in writing of this type of code. This thing which we have written here, let's say public campaigns.js, if I go there, then you see I am defining this template using this template. It is just like a variable like thing I'm defining here, right? This template I'm defining, then it is looking like this thing and all. And if I go in the CLI structure, if I go, where is the CLI project? Yeah, here it is. So if you go in this structure, you see that hello world.view, we are defining this string using template. Main file is your app.view. Okay, in this we are having this template, and this template we have this header which you have defined somewhere else. Then this hello world which you defined somewhere else. Then this router link to where this router link to go, and then router link again. This navbar which you have defined. Clear? Don't get confused with what all things are coming here. Tomorrow we will clean everything and build the project from scratch. The grocery store app from the scratch we will building here, and we will remove all these things. Okay, so you can just go to this link. Let me share. Okay, so any doubts today?
Hello.
Hello, yes.
I have one doubt that I created a virtual environment in backend folder.
Okay.
So, first we need to install means first we need to activate virtual environment or not modules means install
See,
not modules.
okay, you are confused with that. So let me open that our project folder. Here it is. See, even if I activate the virtual environment and not activate the virtual environment, you see. Okay, let me create virtual environment in the backend folder. Now, okay, so it created virtual environment in my backend folder. Now you see Ubuntu virtual environment is here. Okay, now if I want to activate the virtual environment, so now virtual environment is activated. Now even if you go to the front end folder and then run the application and then cd and then run application using the same command which was like npm run dev, then it will also run. So it does not affect whether you are activating your virtual environment or not, whether it is even not there, then also it will run. This is, as again I am saying this is JavaScript thing and virtual environment is Python thing. So if you are in Python environment or not environment, it will not affect your JavaScript environment. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Because for your system, even if you have created your virtual environment for your system and activated the virtual environment, it is thinking that this is just for Python things only. If you write here pip install something, then it will install those things in the Python virtual environment. It will it does not concern with what you are writing in the JavaScript thing. Clear? So I can just close this now. And let's done this. This is done.
Actually, I was just want to ask one doubt. Like while we are
Yes.
doing backends and all, no, so I think Aditya was to use Hawk thing, right? Mail Hawk
Aditya
thing.
was?
Aditya
Yeah,
used
Mailhog.
mail.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So we can continue with that because when I have checked this Google Docs for that Mac too, it was saying like G chat using Google Chat. WebHop. WebHop is
See,
okay,
the
right?
thing is, yeah. See, the thing
I'm not
is,
very con-
you just have to demonstrate that the mail is coming, mail is getting sent.
Yeah, yeah.
You just have to demonstrate that only, that mail is getting sent to someone and mail is getting received by the other person and all these things. You have to show that. That thing can be done using mail thing or the Google Chat thing. Both things are doable. The thing is,
WebHop
mail
is
thing is
fine, right?
easy to do. What?
Webhook is fine, right?
Yeah, book is fine. You can use that also if required. But we will prefer only either Mailhog or Gmail. Gmail is also a thing. You can use the Gmail, create a Gmail app password, and instead of the SMTP port which Mailhog which Aditya has used, I think
So we
it
can
does
use
not have the.
Mailhawk, right?
Yeah, you
What
can use
Aditya has
Mailhog
used.
or even you can use Gmail. You can also showcase your Gmail.
Should I have not tried that thing? I was doing that caching and all, no. So after that was Mailhawk thing.
Okay,
So
let
I
me
need
show
to go through that.
how you can do the Gmail thing. Okay, so for the let me where is the project folder? Mm, yeah, this is the yeah. So in this front end, he has go to main.py. So where is this mail hog he has defined? Applications will have this task. Okay, yeah. So you see here, this is the mail thing here defined here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wherever he has created this mail.py, maybe he have created somewhere. Mm, generate HTML report and sending this thing he has defined in the configuration, I think. Mm, these files are coming and these are this. API auth, where he has defined that. Okay,
I think
so
here he
here
has
it has
no.
defined this port. Yeah, I forgot this. Here he has defined this SMTP port. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so this SMTP port, if you just change this and remove this SFC localhost also and add the
Mm-hmm.
Gmail things, okay, then it will work as Gmail. And for the Gmail, let me show you. See here, for this thing, the simple is you have to create the app password. So app password is getting created using your manage accounts. See here. So this link, yeah, here are the app passwords. I have done this thing for some other scenario. Mm. So let me just write. thing. Let me show that using this. We finally logged in. So, yeah. So you can just set up this app passwords as I have done this thing actually. So it is not showing available for me because I have not configured this with my mobile number. So maybe that's why. So this setting you can enable by just setting up your Gmail account with mobile number. Then this will show to create an app password. You just write your email ID. Just write this app password particular only. You do not need to write your actual Google password. Okay. So just write these things as you can see here. Two-step verification is not on for that, right? So this is the way to create this. Create this Flask test and then password is 16 letter password is there. Then configure it using this. The same thing. Port number is just changed. Mail server is changed. And this is your actual account Gmail ID. And this is your app password which you have defined there. Okay, then remaining things are same. But in this scenario, you can only showcase that mails are getting sent. And if you want to show that mails are getting received also, then you have to specifically use those emails in the creation of account of user and customers and means service professionals, customers and admins. So for that scenario, you have to use specific those emails only which you have access to. That means one place you can use your personal email, other place you can use your IT email and all. Okay. So this thing can be done
So,
using
mhm.
Gmail also.
And what Aditya has called, it is mail hosting, so we can use that
Yeah,
also, right?
there's done this. Yeah, Mailog thing is for showcasing just only for demo purpose. But if you want to
So,
showcase it to the real life thing using Gmail thing, that if you want to showcase that you are getting set, let me show you the app also, which I created.
but as far as our ITM, so mailhop will work, right?
Yeah,
So I thought I need to do some other things like that.
no, no, you
It's
can just
fine
use
then
this
if
thing.
mailhawk is fine from ITM,
Yeah,
then
Mailog is
we
fine
can.
also, and I have you can also send it using yeah. See, I have done this thing. So I created this app for some organization. So you just enter the password here, then click on login, then write the name, and then it gets write the name and email of the person. It sends an HTML email to that person, including some other files also. Okay. So the same thing which we have done in Mat2 project, the same thing I have implemented here. So this is the thing. So let me show you the thing which I was going to explain. Yeah. So let us complete this. Add task is template thing. Okay. We get a template, type text, we model task name, placeholder data task, class form control. We can just ignore this class for now. Okay. Okay. Then this add task button. Now what are we doing is we have defined this task name here. This task name is the same as this task name. Clear? The same thing which we have done earlier in the HTML, we are doing that thing inside this template. Clear this thing?
When we are doing for CDN, right?
Yeah, when we are doing for CDN, and even when you do it for the CLI, you are defining it instead of this template, you define it template structure. You define it using this template. You define that using this template, opening and closing braces. You define it using this template. When you are doing it using the CLI, but when you are doing it using CDN, then you define it using this template thing. Clear? Now after this template comes the data thing. In the data we are writing the same thing which you written here, this task name. And other thing, we are not writing the task list, okay, because this task list we have defined in some other component. As you can see the HTML here, this task list we have defined in some other component. Okay, so let us continue this first. Erase this. So methods, now let us define the methods. So what we define in methods, we have add task method. Okay, this add task method is the same name. Same name here. So add task method, we are not passing anything inside this function. Okay, now what we want is we want to add the task. So what we do, this dot emit. Now what I'm doing here, I will explain you, just bear with me. Okay, and then we do this dot task name, and after this we make again the same thing, this dot task name as this empty. Okay, then we define another component. Here we have defined one component which is add task. Now we define another component which is method is done. So this is done, this is done. Now we define another component, task list. Now in this case, we are passing tasks. You see that in the task list, we are actually passing this tasks. So that's why we are writing this tasks as, let me write this thing here. Okay. So in this, what we write, props. We define something called props as a list thing. Okay. Comma. Then we go to the next thing. We define template. How does this look like? It should look like the same thing. UL unordered list, li for list, we task in task, e task, then task to be shown here. Clear? And then this is done. Now let us create the app for the view. Now app3 view create app, it is called. Let us see what is this components thing. We are defining new thing called components. So in this component we are adding our add task and task list. What is this add task? This add task is what we have defined here. If you see, yeah, here it is this add task. Okay, then this is another task list we have defined here. Clear? So these two things we have defined here, this add task and task list, we are setting these things to our constant function, constants of the view app which we have defined here, add task and this task list. So that's why we are using it add task and task list here. Clear? Is it clear?
Yes.
Now these are the components we have defined. Now what does this app should return? It should have, this app should return the task list which we have. Now you see that these things we have done differently. In this scenario we have done the template task name here. Why? Because this component requires the task name to be shown. The task name we are writing here in the front end, when in the what we call is input box we are writing the task name. That's why we have defined this data type here. But in this scenario we are just showcasing this task, so we are writing this task here. Okay, now this we are passing it here, props task. So this task will go there and this task is coming here also for task in, because using for task in task. Okay, then when we are creating this task list, this task gets to this props thing here. Clear? By this function, which we are going to define now. Methods. When we write this methods add task, okay, this add task method we are defining, add task name, and then this dot task dot push task name. It completes this here. Now again app dot mount app3. Okay. Now just you see the function of this. Okay, so right, you see it is coming here, right? Now how is this working? Let us go in little bit deep of this, because this is what you will be doing in your complete Vue project. Okay, firstly we have defined this const app add task. Now this add task is a component which I have defined. Clear? Component contains this template, data, methods, that's all. And mounted also, there is something called mounted also, we can keep that thing. Or in this scenario, it is not required, that's why we are not keeping that. Mounted tells us that which function should run in which order. That means if we have some fetch calls here, then we can use those fetch calls to tell which function should run in which order. Clear? You will get to know when we do the project, you will get to know that thing. Okay. Now we have const task list. Now there is something called as props we defined. So in this case, what we are doing is we are getting this task here. Okay. Now this task is getting here. Now this method is pushing inside this task. This method is pushing the task name, right? Add task is a function. Add task function takes one argument, which is task name, and pushes that task name to this tasks array. Now this task array is returned by this, and then it goes as a props to this task list because it is one of the components of this task.
Basically, what is meant by props here?
Sorry?
Props. Hello?
Props? Yeah.
Yeah, props I'm saying here.
So
It's a
props are
list.
actually,
Yeah,
props is
go ahead, go
actually,
ahead.
you can say, it is just we passing it like a list thing. Okay. So when we pass the data to the component, we use this props. You can say properties like thing. Okay. So you can also see here that const task props is a string thing. Props string, it is a string like thing and passed like a list. Clear? So just it is for passing the data to a component. Just remember for this props thing, it is for passing data to a component. If I showcase you this also, you can, this is your backend. Let us go to the front end and will be your here. Props here was here, no? Yeah. See here, they are defining props here. Then this thing gets inside our code. Okay. They have defined props somewhere else also. But don't, you can just ignore the props thing for now because we will not be using the props. Okay, we will be just using simple things. The props is just for additional functionality if you are doing that. If you want to showcase, if you want to are passing, let's say you are going from one link to another. Okay, you are going from one link to another and you are passing the data using that. If I show you the project of that, in this case, if I go to the router.js, yeah, see, in this scenario, when we are passing the path here, that path this, now you see something is available here, that campaign ID. Now I am written this campaign ID using this colon. right? This campaign ID means that this is getting a variable like thing which will change for different user. Clear? Now similar thing, if you want to pass, then we can pass inside this component view campaign. Let us go to view campaign. Then we can pass that using props, and we get these things before defining the data. Before defining this data, we get those things here. Clear?
We'll get to know once we do that project.
Yeah,
More.
you will get to know you when you do the project. For now, you can ignore just this thing. Okay, props thing. Even if you don't use prop, your project can be work full-fledged. It will not have any issues. Okay, so just add this thing and tasks are getting added. Now this is done using two components. Now if I define one component here in one file, where is this? Yeah. If I just copy this component and paste in another file, task list.js, and copy this component, this complete component, paste in another file, add task.js, and then import these components in the router.app.js file where I define the routes like this. These are just components only. You see login.js. If I go to login.js, so you see this is the login.js component, const login I have defined. Then in that scenario, I have to use this export word also. Export default login. That means I am exporting this constant login which I have defined here. Just this difference comes when you work with multiple files using
So that
components.
wherever login is required, it can be imported, right?
Yes, wherever login is required, it can be imported.
Okay. And in this, I think a route folder is not available. In components, all that things
It
are
is here,
available.
na? Route folder
In
is
app.
not there. App.js has routes, right?
Okay, okay. We mentioned in
App.js,
this.
in
Okay.
app.js, we have routes here. These components, we are
Okay.
importing all the components here. And remember, the name should be same. That login is there. Then this login is the same thing which we have defined here.
Okay, okay.
Clear?
Exported here,
And
and
in
we have imported
app.js,
in apps also. Okay.
yeah, we are importing this here. And then we are working like const routes and then defining the routes here. Path this login and all these components we have defined here. Clear?
Okay, 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 okay.
Yeah.
This is simple structure compared to CLI.
Yeah, this is simple structure, but the issue with comes with this, that you are not able to understand these things here. Okay.
In our project, I think we can do with CDN because CLI is
Yeah,
basically used for bigger applications, right?
yes, you
Our
can use with
application
CDN.
is.
Yeah, you can use with CDN, but the issue comes with CDN is that you do not have any proper formatting here. If I just do the
That I got
formatting,
to know.
yeah, that is the issue in CDN. That is the issue in CDN, that it is not formatted properly. And you see this mounted thing which I was telling, that mounted thing tells us that what function should run for the first time when the data loads, when the app, this page loads for the first time. So it should fetch the data. So just today do one thing, go to this app, go to this link and just look for all these functions. Async function, we are doing this fetch data. How is this function working? Now we are trying to get data from the local storage. This local storage is, we are setting the data while logging in. When you go to the login, what we did? Let us go to login one by one. Okay. Just I am giving brief intro of this because from tomorrow onwards, we will be doing the login and all these things in the grocery store. Okay. So login and register functions we will do tomorrow in the grocery and then move further. So this is the data. Then we are writing methods. How is this method? This async login. This login thing is how is this working? Login thing is working from this function is defined here. If we go to the login button, yes. See here. This login is defined here. Logins submit prevent login. So this function login is defined here. Try await the contents of this file fetch login. Then in this fetch call only itself, fetch call itself. You see that this pink bracket is starting, we are opening this pink bracket, and this fetch call, we call the fetch API. We call the data with fetch API using these methods. Which kind of method we want to get the data from? Then these are the headers. These are the headers which we are going to pass. And remember, every time when you are getting the data in JSON format or Postman data in JSON format, you have to use the headers as content type application JSON. Clear? This is for telling that you are getting the data in content type application JSON. Clear? JSON format, you
Yes,
are getting the
yes.
data or Postman data. You are doing this, and we have to, in the body thing, body tag of this fetch API, you can use the post request here, you can even use the get request here, you can even use the put request here, you can even use the delete request here, delete method. Okay, in Python we
So
call
it will
these
be
methods
according to
of
our
delete.
API and routes for which
Yes,
for which method we have made that.
yes. Then we define this body. Okay, these three things we are passing inside this fetch only. This body, then we go to json.stringify. Now, what does json.stringify do? It converts this thing into the JSON format. Properly JSON formatted, it does this thing. One thing is raw JSON, raw text, which we write using the JSON formatting, right? And other thing is properly JSON format, which system backend system can understand. So it just json.stringify username. This username and password are those things which are there coming, which are going to the backend. Okay, if you go to the backend and go to the let's say api.py, and let us go to login. You see this username and password, and these are the arguments, username and password, the same thing which we have defined. You can just ignore the backend for this project because it is made using this argument parser and all these things. These are not, we have not done these things. Okay, we have done much easier thing. This is for a little bit complicated thing. Okay, you can just ignore this backend of this, just look at the front end code of this if you want to understand the project using view CDN. Okay, so the same thing we are in login, right? So username password is this. Then we have just closed this. We have just closed this stringify function, and then we have closed this. After closing the stringify function, we have just closed this function for the other things in the fetch API call, and then close this fetch API function. This is getting closed here. This is complete. You can say this is complete fetch. Clear? After this fetch, what we do? Fetching, await fetching. After this, we are defining data. Data await response.json. The same thing we have done today also. If you recall from here. So you see, mm, here we have done the same thing. Const data await response.json. Clear? Then what we did, we have done const data await response.json. Then we are checking if response is okay. As I already told you that fetch is not much good because we have to check whether the fetch response is properly coming or not. Even if a 404 response comes, it will not tell the 404 response is coming. Okay, so that's why we check if the response is okay. Response.okay. Okay checks for the 200 code. 200 code is for success, right? So okay checks for the 200 code, success code is coming or not. And then if the success code is coming, it then sets the, this is the browser local storage. This is the browser local storage dot set item. This is a function for local storage. Okay, set item, then token. This is the token thing which we are setting in the browser local storage, and setting the access token which is coming from the data. This data we are converting this to response.json, and after converting to response.json, we are, after converting this data to JSON format, we are accessing the access token which is coming from the backend. If I go to the backend and show you this login, you see it is returning me message, access token and role also. Okay, so I can also set one thing, that set the data on the login page, set the token name with the role. So let's say if a user is logged in, then it will say user and then save the data.access token, data.role and data.access token. Then what will happen? In our browser, we will have three people simultaneously logged in with different roles. Clear? Because at a time, only one named token can be there. It means it is just like a key value pairs. Then if you are defining a key with name token, then its value will be this only. Right? If you just go log out and then this value will get removed from the token, from the local storage. Clear? Then we are just checking this thing. If the data role is admin, triple equal to is used in JavaScript to check for proper formatting. Double equal to be used for checking. Let's say if I'm writing string one and just one. If I'm writing, let me just write here. If I write one as integer and I check it with one. Okay. So in this scenario, it will throw false. It will say false. So in this scenario, it will say true, but if I add triple equal to, then it will say false. Why? Because in this scenario, it will check the data type also. If you do double equal to, it will not check the data type, it will just check the this thing only. That one is equal to one, yes, it is true. But if you do triple equal to, then it will check the data type also. Clear? So data role, it checks the admin, if the role is admin or not, and string is there. Then this dot router, this router thing dot push, change the router to admin dashboard. And if the data role is sponsor, change it to push it to sponsor dashboard. If the data role is influencer, push it to influencer dashboard. And then else, if this thing is response is not okay, then else alert with data.message, the error message is coming, or show login field. Alert message is for showcasing in the browser alert. You can just show it. Let us go here. If you go to the inspect, mm, let me go to inspect console. Let us do. You see, this is the hello. This is the alert. Okay. Similar thing we have a prompt. If you want to get data, you see, you are writing who are you and then okay, then it writes this thing here. And you can also pass this thing. This is just like input and output thing, printing things and getting these things from the browser thing. Okay. So if you are, even if you are creating a service or even if you are creating the data, you can use a prompt also instead of using this view thing. Clear? Then we are doing this catch. After this try, we are doing this catch here. Catch the error, console.log, console.error, error logging in and show the error and alert an error record during login. This is the alert thing which shows. So just look at this function and you see how it works. It is just a login function and this login function will remain same for every application. Right? Whether it is your quizmaster, just the role thing will change and now you understand which thing will work where. Right?
Okay. Okay.
What are there? Rajesh also there. Okay. Rajesh is clear to you?
Yeah, yeah, clear.
Okay. So let me just complete that. So that was already completed here. So this is how it works. Okay. Props thing, if you don't use, even if you don't do it, it will still work. There is no issue with props and all. Okay. Now what is this? Emit. Okay. So it is just for, what is this emit? So it is just for emitting an event, you can say. Okay. So what we did here is we did this dot emit. So add task, we are writing emit, right? Emit add this is the task item, right? So what is this add we are defined here? Let us go back and you see this function. So it is just like you can say that it is event handling. Yesterday we have seen this thing here in event handling using document.get element by id. Where is that? Which we commented right now. Get element by id is there. Yeah, so you see here document.get, yeah, add event listener, actually it is this add event listener. Then we are writing this click thing, right? So this thing you can say that when we are writing emit, then we are defining this click event, actually click event or add event. Okay, when we are writing this click event is all predefined in the view, but this add event is actually not defined. So we have set this add event here, then on clicking this add, it should add a task. So this happens on this case only. Then emit add this dot task name and set the this dot task name. On clicking this add button, on clicking this button, it should add this dot task name and set this to 0, set this to null. Clear? And then what it does is it takes that add task and pushes inside this task list and then show it here. So it is just like from here data is going to this place and then going to this place. Is it clear? Is it clear, Raja and Naman?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, it's
clear.
clear. From method it
Okay.
goes to components, and then components it will go to that box. Correct, na?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all for today. Now from tomorrow onwards, hopefully remaining things are we, if, we, model, we, bind and all these things. We, if, we, else are just the similar things like we have for we, for, and we, if, we, else the same thing as we, for. Okay. We, if just tells you that if this thing condition, if this condition follows, then do this, otherwise do the we, else condition, right? We, if, we, else, no, I don't think you need to get demo for that also. Okay. So you can get to know when we do the project itself that whether we will showing this thing or not. So today, tomorrow we will continue with the demonstration of the, we will continue with the making of the project. So we are done with the basics of JavaScript and Vue. Now we are good to go with our making of our app. Clear?
Yes, yes, clear.
Okay. So let me stop sharing. Okay. Thank you for joining today.
Mm.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.
Good night.